Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another Black Unicorn Red Pill production. Today we're going to be discussing MGTOW and how they play into the hands of the oligarchy. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another Black Unicorn Red Pill production. This is your host, the Black Unicorn, and I am very grateful for you all for tuning in. We've been focusing primarily on MGTOW. I'm going to poke at MGTOW a bit here because to some extent they are comparable to the male version of feminists and feminism, and here's why. And more importantly, they play into the hand of the oligarchy, and here's how. So really, if you look up a lot of the MGTOW literature, they do see themselves as being counteractive to feminism. They see feminism as a cancer in our society. It is a blight. It must be stopped. Things which I actually agree with as well, and we as Black unicorns have come to understand. However, oftentimes their belief is, as men, is that all of us women have been infected by this feminism, and that all of society has been corrupted by it. And so their decision is to just leave the system. These are men who are essentially pursuing bachelor life. Some of these men did come in after divorces, after having children, perhaps as baby daddies or as ex-husbands. And there are some men who never had a child. Maybe even young men who are in their teens, in their early 20s, who have just watched a lot of this literature, swallowed the red pill, you may say, heard so many horror stories that they have decided that they will just opt out before they even hop in. And you see they're playing into the hands of the oligarchy. Why? How? Well, earlier we discussed in our feminism series that the ultimate goal of feminism is to break apart families, break apart the couple, the mating process, by masculinizing women and feminizing men. But let's stick to that first half of the goal. The end goal is more single people, more single parents, more broken homes. The method of the feminists is the main method, or the main way of doing this by the feminists, is to masculinize the women and feminize the men. So what are the MGTOWs and MRAs doing on their side that relates? Well, the MGTOW, as a response to feminism, are rejecting marriage, mostly courthouse legalized marriage, and therefore are on paper single, and are encouraging men who are coming into this crowd to be single, to stay single, and whether or not they have children. And the reason, the why, not necessarily the how, but the why, is because of feminism and the deterioration of society. The how is just by doing it, by choice, by deciding to keep it in your pants, keep your wallet there too, and not participate. Now, just like the feminists, the men have the right to do this. This is perfectly fine. But if you're paying attention here, you'll see that the end goal of MGTOW, unlike the MRA, is not to fix the system, but to leave the system. And one has to think and consider, if we look at the world from a societal standpoint, from a large scale standpoint, feminism has gone mainstream. Therefore, we can predict that a vast majority of males and females, will abide by, or whether or not they approve of, will at least abide by feminist rhetoric and logic. Conversely, those who don't will be, in some kind of outside of society, right? Some kind of subculture. Because now feminism has made the mainstream culture. Now feminism is keeping men and women from being married or from maintaining happy marriages by putting incompatible values and beliefs in people who are expected to couple together, which therefore leads to divorce. And marriage is not happening altogether, though coupling will happen. Now look at the MGTOW gentlemen. They're going to just not marry. And the question has been raised by some men, and because there aren't any two official leaders in this movement, I'm not sure if they've been answered. But what is to be done about the young men or the childless men who do want to have children, but are on the MGTOW wave? What do they do? It's a very good question, and I don't know what the answer is. But that is a good question. But from a societal point, I hope those who are listening are able to see and kind of hear how if feminism is going to make for incompatible coupling, women being single longer and more divorcing, and now MGTOW is men electing to leave, it sounds like the oligarchy is still getting its way. And it doesn't really address, of course, the question of what of the women who are not feminists? What of the women who are, in fact, submissive and sweet? Us black unicorns. So, what a lot of the MGTOW men don't really realize is that by stepping out of society, they're actually giving in to the oligarchy, who is controlling and leading the feminists. They understand that men have not changed. Men's nature has not changed. And so by changing the women and by trying to get men to change unsuccessfully, they are creating women who are too ugly, loud, outspoken, fat for good men. And then in response, there are what could be considered or potentially good men who are electing to not even try. At the end of the day, more single people, more incomes to tax, more rents to collect, more cars, more clothes, the whole 9 yards. And so there's a really big, thing that's kind of being missed out here by the guys who are doing this. And I don't necessarily criticize that decision, because I have seen and heard and experienced the foolery of a lot of sisters out here. And this is not just sisters, this is really started by the pale ones, because they had it bad too. But despite this, the real question that we all listening need to be asking of the MGTOW crowd is, what is the long-term end goal? What is the societal solution? And more importantly, for the men who are in this, who are young, how am I going to get my legacy? How am I going to live beyond this generation? You see, men can, of course, go on their own as long as they're single. But then as long as they're single, when they die, all of their assets will actually be taken back by the system, the very system itself that they're trying to leave. Now, unless they've left it to someone else. But then what about their knowledge, their wisdom, their character, and their good old-fashioned DNA? What do you gentlemen do, Mr. MGTOW? What are you going to do? If your response is use a woman as a baby maker and to get your child and raise your child on your own, you're electing to be a single parent, which is just as when women do it, child abuse. But not just that, you are electing to mistreat a woman, which is spousal abuse, and as well as that child. Once again, going back to the child abuse, because children need their mothers, and opening yourself up to the system, because child support can get you whether you're married or not. Really, marriage just helps a woman get more in child support and potentially alimony, or divorce, I should say. So I want us to leave us on one last thing, and when I get my copy, I will probably do a reading. If we have read the George Orwell classic 1984, published in 1949, which is to predict what the world would have looked like by 1984, which is what the world is becoming now. So 2019, maybe 25 years off target, 35 years off target, but close enough. There was a passage in there where O'Brien was discussing with the protagonist, I believe his name was George. Mr. O'Brien was talking with the protagonist about the ultimate goal of the system. And one of the goals was to essentially reduce or eliminate sex from society. To have men go on one side to get some pleasure, deposit sperm, and for a select amount of women to be chosen to be the baby makers of society and just pump out babies. And then to pair the children with paired couples, to put children in with certain couples. But then, of course, to indoctrinate the children to really just be the watchdogs of the adults, to make sure that no one was trying to subvert Big Brother. Now, if you've read 1984, you are familiar that this is just one of the many elements of Big Brother society, which, interestingly enough, nearly every single last one of them have come to fruition despite this book being published in 1949, meaning it was at least completed in writing in 1948 and came out of Mr. Orwell's experiences in World War II, which happened between 1933 and 1945. And so, based upon observations made in the 30s and 40s, this book was written in the 40s and published in the late 40s, discussing the future. And here we are in the 2010s, the late 2010s, seeing it happen. So understand that when we have feminist women who are aggressively, assertively, and disrespectfully shunning men and their own femininity, and then we have men who are in a similar way shunning their masculine responsibility, not just to society as a whole, but to themselves and their own legacy. We can make the case, which is what I am making here, which is that MGTOW has fallen into the trap, is playing into the hand of the oligarchy, who's here to make more money on the everyday brother, the working poor, the everyday working person, the plebeians, as we were called in 1984. MRA is exempt from this because, to an extent, they are at least trying to improve the system, which suggests that if the system was improved to the point that they're liking, they would participate. That if laws concerning marriage and divorce and false rape allegations and so forth were rectified, that they would go back to being look-seeking marriage and happy families. Whereas MGTOW make no claim. They make no such claim as to either try to make things better or to even go back if things get better, which is how they play into the hands of the super wealthy who are married. Every last one of them. Okay, well, that is what I have to say. I want to give thanks to everybody for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I look forward to tuning in with you all another day. Au revoir.